The lights dimmed in the xenobiology classroom as Professor Dale activated the holographic projector. 23 students from 12 different species sat in curved rows, their various eyes and sensory organs focused on the empty space above the central platform. Emma sat near the back, her small human frame tucked between a towering blue-skinned Altrian and a crystalline being whose body chimed softly when it moved. "Today we study death," Professor Dale announced, his forearms gesturing dramatically. The pale, thin alien enjoyed being theatrical during his lectures. Not just any death, but the kind delivered by nature's most perfect killers. Emma pulled out her datapad to take notes. This was her favorite class at the Galactic Academy, even though she was the only human enrolled this semester. Most of her species preferred to study closer to home, but Emma had always been curious about life on other worlds. The first hologram materialized above them. A massive creature with 6 legs and armor-like skin prowled through what looked like a metal forest. Its claws scraped against the ground with each step, leaving deep gouges in solid rock. Several students gasped, and the Altrian beside Emma made a low whistling sound. "The Iron Beast of Kepler 442b, Professor Dale said proudly. Average weight, 3 tons. Bite force, enough to crush a shuttle hull. Survival rate for encounters, less than 2%. Emma watched with interest as the creature demonstrated its hunting technique, moving with surprising grace for something so large. It reminded her of nature documentaries she used to watch as a child, though this predator was unlike anything from Earth. The hologram shifted to show a new creature. This one was smaller but somehow more frightening. It moved like liquid shadow, its form constantly shifting between solid and gas. When it struck its prey, the victim simply collapsed, drained of all life in seconds. "The Void Walker," Professor Dale continued. "Found only on the moon of Vega Prime. It feeds on bioelectric energy, leaving nothing but empty shells behind." A nervous chittering filled the room as students from various species recognized the threat this creature would pose to their own kind. Emma noticed that even Professor Dale seemed uncomfortable discussing this particular predator. More holograms followed. The bone serpent, whose coils could snap trees in half. The glass spider, transparent except for its venom sacs. The thunder bird, whose cry could shatter stone and whose talons sparked with natural electricity. Each creature was more terrifying than the last, and Professor Dale clearly enjoyed watching his students squirm. The classroom grew quieter with each new horror, until only the soft sounds of nervous breathing and the occasional whispered prayer filled the air. Then the hologram changed again, and Emma straightened in her seat. The new creature was smaller than the others, maybe 4 feet long including its tail. It had golden brown fur, alert triangular ears, and bright amber eyes that seemed almost intelligent. It moved through a forest setting with fluid grace, every step silent and controlled. "Ah, now this is interesting," Professor Dale said, warming to his subject. The Terran mountain cat, also called a cougar or mountain lion. Despite its smaller size, this predator is remarkably efficient. Emma tilted her head, studying the familiar form on the display. The creature padded along a rocky ledge, muscles rippling beneath its coat. It paused to sniff the air, then continued its silent hunt through the wilderness. "This particular predator," Professor Dale continued, "combines stealth, power, and intelligence in ways that make it extremely dangerous. It can leap over 40 feet in a single bound. Its bite can crush the spine of prey twice its size. Most remarkably, it can stalk its victims for days without being detected." The hologram showed the mountain cat in action, bringing down what looked like a large deer with a single precise strike to the neck. The kill was clean and quick, demonstrating the predator's skill. Emma found herself smiling slightly. She had always thought cats were beautiful creatures, even the big ones. This mountain lion moved with the same grace she remembered from her childhood, though on a much larger scale. "The Terran mountain cat is particularly notable," Professor Dale said, "because it shares its planet with another apex predator species. The competition between these two predators has made both extremely dangerous and unpredictable." Several students made notes about this unusual arrangement. Most death worlds contained only one apex predator species, since competition usually eliminated the weaker hunters over time. Emma's hand went up without her really thinking about it. "Professor Dale?" "Yes, Miss Emma?" "That one used to sleep under my bed when I was little." The words came out casually, the way she might comment on the weather or ask about homework. Emma did not realize the impact her simple statement would have on the room full of aliens who had just spent an hour learning about the galaxy's most deadly creatures. The silence that followed was complete. Not a single student moved or made a sound. Even Professor Dale's forearms froze in mid-gesture, his pale skin shifting to an alarming purple color. Every eye in the room focused on Emma. The Alterian beside her leaned away so quickly that he nearly fell from his chair. The crystalline student's chiming stopped entirely, which Emma had learned meant extreme shock. Professor Dale opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. "Miss Emma, did you just say that creature slept under your bed?" Emma nodded, suddenly aware that something was very wrong but not understanding what. "Well, sometimes on my bed too, but Mom said Whiskers preferred the cool tiles under there during summer." The silence stretched on until it became uncomfortable. Within 30 minutes of Emma's shocking statement, she found herself sitting in Professor Dale's private office. The small room felt crowded with three of the station's most important scientists staring at her with expressions ranging from concern to disbelief. Professor Dale paced behind his desk, his forearms moving nervously. Dr. Helen, the station's head of xenobiology, sat across from Emma with her tentacles folded carefully in her lap. The third scientist, Dr. Mark, kept adjusting his breathing apparatus while his large black eyes never left Emma's face. "Emma," Dr. Helen began gently, "we need to talk about what you said in class today." Emma shifted in her chair, feeling like she was in trouble but not understanding why. "Did I say something wrong?" "You claimed that a mountain lion slept in your bedroom," Professor Dale said, stopping his pacing to look directly at her. "A creature that we just established is one of the most dangerous predators in known space." "Well, yes," Emma replied slowly. "But Whiskers wasn't dangerous. He was really sweet." Dr. Mark made a choking sound. "Sweet?" "He used to purr when I scratched behind his ears. And he always knew when I was sad. He would come and put his head on my lap until I felt better." The three scientists exchanged glances. Dr. Helen leaned forward, her voice very calm and careful. "Emma, sometimes when people experience terrible trauma, their minds create new memories to help them cope. It's a natural defense mechanism." Emma frowned. "Trauma? What are you talking about?" "It must have been horrifying," Professor Dale said softly. "Facing such a creature as a child. Your mind has clearly rewritten the memory to make it bearable." "I wasn't traumatized," Emma insisted, growing frustrated. "Whiskers was my pet. My family got him when I was 3 years old from an animal rescue center." Dr. Mark's breathing apparatus hissed loudly. "Rescue center? You mean a prison for captured predators?" "No, a place that takes care of animals that need homes. Whiskers had been hurt and abandoned. The people at the center nursed him back to health, and then we adopted him." "Adopted?" Dr. Helen repeated the word like it was foreign. "You mean your family deliberately brought this predator into your home?" Emma nodded. "Of course. That's what people do with pets." The word pets seemed to hit the three aliens like a physical blow. Professor Dale sat down heavily in his chair. Dr. Helen's tentacles twitched uncontrollably. Dr. Mark started breathing so rapidly that his apparatus began making warning beeps. "Emma," Dr. Helen said very slowly, "are you telling us that humans intentionally keep deadly predators in their homes? With their children?" "They're not deadly when they're pets," Emma explained, wondering why this was so hard for them to understand. "They love their families. They protect them." Dr. Mark stood up abruptly and began pacing. "This is impossible. Predators don't protect other species. They hunt them. They kill them." "Not pets," Emma said firmly. "My brother Jack has a German shepherd named Rex. Rex is bigger than Jack, but is incredibly gentle with him. Rex even sleeps in Jack's room to keep him safe." Professor Dale's skin had gone completely white. "Your family allows an even larger predator to guard your offspring." Emma was getting tired of their shocked reactions. "Look, I know this seems weird to you, but it's completely normal for humans. Lots of families have pets. Dogs, cats, birds, fish, hamsters, rabbits. Some people even have horses or cows." "Stop," Dr. Helen held up a tentacle. "Just stop for a moment." The room fell quiet except for Dr. Mark's labored breathing. Emma waited, not sure what else she could say to make them understand. Dr. Helen pulled out her communication device and began typing rapidly. "I'm sending an emergency message to Earth Xenobiology Institute. We need to speak with your family immediately." "Why?" Emma asked. "Because," Professor Dale said quietly, "if what you're telling us is true, then we've misunderstood everything about your species." Emma crossed her arms. "What's to misunderstand? Humans like animals. Animals like humans. We take care of each other." Dr. Mark stopped pacing and stared at her. You're describing a symbiotic relationship between apex predators and prey species. That's theoretically impossible. Except we're not prey, Emma pointed out. Humans are predators too. We're just predators who decided to work together instead of fighting. The three scientists looked at each other again, and Emma could see something like fear in their expressions. Dr. Helen's communication device chimed. She looked at the message and nodded. Your family has agreed to a video call. They'll be online in 1 hour. Emma shrugged. Okay, but I don't know what you expect them to say. Mom and Dad will just tell you the same thing I did. Professor Dale stood up and walked to the window that looked out over the station's main corridor. Students from dozens of species walked past, going about their normal daily routines. None of them were accompanied by deadly predators who had chosen to become family members. Emma, he said without turning around, do you realize that no other species in the galaxy has ever successfully domesticated an apex predator? Emma thought about this for a moment. Really? That's kind of sad. They're missing out. Dr. Mark made another choking sound. Missing out? Yeah. Having a pet is one of the best parts of being human. The love, the companionship, the way they're always happy to see you come home. Emma smiled, thinking of Whiskers waiting for her by the door every day after school. There's nothing quite like it. The three scientists stared at her in complete silence, and Emma began to realize that her normal human childhood might not be normal at all. The main conference room of Titan Station had never hosted a meeting quite like this one. Emma sat at the long table facing the largest holographic display screen she had ever seen. Around her, 12 of the galaxy's most respected xenobiologists waited in tense silence. Some paced nervously, others sat rigidly in their chairs, and a few kept checking their emergency communication devices. Dr. Helen adjusted the display controls one final time. Connection established. Earth is online. The screen flickered to life, showing Emma's family living room. Her mother Sarah sat on the familiar brown couch, and sprawled across her lap was the largest golden retriever Emma had ever seen. The dog's head rested contentedly on Sarah's arm while she absently scratched behind his ears. Hi sweetie, Sarah waved at Emma. How are your studies going? Before Emma could answer, Professor Dale leaned forward. Mrs. Williams, we need to ask you about the creature in your lap. Sarah looked down at the dog and smiled. Oh, this is Maximum. We got him about 6 months after Emma left for school. The house felt too quiet without her. Dr. Mark, who had been silent since entering the room, suddenly spoke up. Madam, are you aware that the animal you're touching is classified as a Class 7 predatory species? Sarah laughed, a sound that made several aliens jump in their seats. Max? He's a big teddy bear. Aren't you, boy? She rubbed the dog's belly, and his back leg kicked automatically. Max's tail wagged against the couch cushions. Dr. Helen's tentacles writhed with what Emma recognized as extreme anxiety. The creature appears to be enjoying physical contact. Of course he is, Sarah replied. Dogs love attention. Max follows me around all day hoping for belly rubs and ear scratches. The camera view shifted as Emma's father Robert walked into frame, carrying what looked like a rubber ball. Behind him trotted a black and white border collie with bright, intelligent eyes. This is Pepper, Robert explained to the camera. She's our newest addition. Found her at the shelter last month. He threw the ball across the room, and Pepper immediately chased after it, returning seconds later to drop it at his feet with obvious excitement. Professor Dale gripped the edge of the table. The predator is playing. Fetch is Pepper's favorite game, Robert said, throwing the ball again. She could do this for hours. Sometimes I get tired before she does. Dr. Mark stood up so quickly his chair fell backward. You're telling us that you engage in recreational activities with apex predators. Before anyone could answer, Emma's 8-year-old brother Jack ran into view, followed closely by the largest dog Emma had ever seen. The German Shepherd was easily as tall as Jack's shoulders, with alert ears and intelligent brown eyes that never left the boy. That's Rex, Emma explained to the stunned aliens. Jack's best friend. As if to prove her point, Jack threw his arms around the massive dog's neck. Rex stood perfectly still, his tail wagging slowly while the small human child hugged him tightly. Rex protects me, Jack announced proudly to the camera. He walks me to school every day and waits for me to come home. And he knows when I'm scared of thunderstorms, so he sleeps in my bed. The silence in the conference room was deafening. Emma watched as alien faces displayed expressions she had never seen before. Several scientists appeared to be having trouble breathing. The camera panned again, showing Emma's grandmother Helen sitting in her rocking chair. In her lap sat a large orange tabby cat, purring so loudly the sound filled the conference room. The cat's eyes were closed in obvious contentment as Grandmother Helen stroked its fur. "That's Ginger," Grandmother Helen said to the camera. "I found him as a tiny kitten behind the grocery store. He was so thin and scared. Now look at him, spoiled rotten." Dr. Helen, the station's head scientist, made a sound like air escaping from a broken seal. The feline predator sought out human contact voluntarily. "Well, not at first," Grandmother Helen admitted. "It took weeks of patience and gentle care before he trusted me. But once he realized I wasn't going to hurt him, he became the most loving companion I could ask for." As if summoned by her words, Ginger opened his bright green eyes and looked directly into the camera. He stretched his paws, extended his claws briefly, then settled back into Grandmother Helen's lap with a rumbling purr. Professor Dale's voice was barely a whisper. Those claws could easily tear through flesh. "Ginger would never hurt anyone," Grandmother Helen replied firmly. "He's gentle as a lamb. Sometimes the neighborhood children come over just to pet him." The word children sent a ripple of shock through the alien scientists. Dr. Mark collapsed back into his chair, his breathing apparatus working overtime. Emma's mother Sarah looked concerned. "Is everything all right? You all seem upset about something." Dr. Helen found her voice. "Mrs. Williams, we need to understand. These animals could easily overpower any of you. Why don't they simply take what they want?" Sarah looked puzzled by the question. "Take what? We give them everything they need. Food, shelter, medical care, love. Why would they want anything else?" "But the power dynamic," Professor Dale insisted. "They are physically superior. They could dominate you." Robert laughed, the sound making several aliens flinch. "That's not how love works. Max doesn't stay with us because he has to. He stays because he wants to. We're his pack now. His family." The camera showed the full scene, a human family surrounded by creatures that galactic science classified as deadly predators, all living together in obvious harmony. The dogs playing, the cat purring, the humans moving among them without fear. Emma watched her colleagues struggle to process what they were seeing. Everything they knew about predator behavior was being challenged by a simple family video call. 2 weeks after the shocking video call, the research ship Discovery entered Earth's orbit. Emma stood on the observation deck watching her home planet grow larger as they approached. Beside her, Dr. Helen nervously adjusted her protective gear for the third time in 10 minutes. "I still think this is incredibly dangerous," Professor Dale muttered, checking his emergency beacon. "We're voluntarily landing on a death world populated by apex predators." Emma sighed. "They're pets, not monsters. You'll see." The landing shuttle touched down at New York Spaceport, and Emma's family waited at the arrival gate. The moment the airlock opened, Max bounded forward with his tail wagging furiously. Dr. Mark took one look at the approaching golden retriever and immediately fainted. "Max, sit," Sarah commanded gently. The massive dog instantly obeyed, though his entire body wiggled with excitement. His tongue hung out as he panted happily at the strange new visitors. Dr. Helen approached cautiously, her tentacles trembling. "It's so much larger in person." "He's a big boy," Robert agreed, scratching Max behind the ears. "But gentle as they come. Want to pet him?" The suggestion nearly sent Professor Dale into panic. "Pet it? You want us to make physical contact with a Class 7 predator?" Before anyone could answer, Jack ran up with Rex at his side. The German Shepherd's alert eyes immediately assessed the new arrivals, but he stayed calmly beside the 8-year-old boy. "Rex, these are Emma's friends from space," Jack announced. Rex's ears perked up at the word friends, and his tail gave a single cautious wag. Emma knelt down and held out her hand. Rex sniffed carefully, then licked her palm with obvious recognition and approval. The aliens watched in stunned silence as Emma hugged the enormous dog. "He remembers me," Emma said with delight. "Even after all this time away." The drive to Emma's house was an adventure in itself. Max insisted on sitting in the front seat next to Robert, his head hanging out the passenger window with pure joy. In the second vehicle, Rex rode alertly beside Jack, occasionally looking back to check on the nervous alien passengers. Dr. Helen kept her distance from both animals. Their behavior patterns are completely unlike anything in our databases. They show no aggression, no territorial instincts, no predatory responses. Because they are family, Emma explained for what felt like the 100th time. Family doesn't hunt family. At the house, Grandmother Helen introduced them to Ginger, who was sunbathing on the front porch. The orange tabby opened one green eye to study the visitors, determined they posed no threat, and returned to his nap. "Remarkable," Dr. Mark whispered, having recovered from his earlier fainting spell. "The feline predator assessed us and chose not to engage." "He's lazy," Grandmother Helen said with affection. "Unless you're a mouse or a bird, Ginger considers you beneath his notice." The real education began inside the house. The aliens watched in fascination as the family went about their normal routines with 3 apex predators moving freely among them. Max followed Sarah to the kitchen, hoping for dropped food but never taking anything without permission. Rex lay beside Jack while the boy did homework, occasionally nudging him with his nose when Jack got distracted. Ginger claimed his favorite spot on top of the bookshelf, from where he could observe everything with regal indifference. "I don't understand the pack dynamics," Professor Dale admitted as they watched Jack feed Rex small pieces of chicken from his dinner plate. "The young human is sharing resources with a creature that could easily overpower him." "That's what families do," Jack said matter-of-factly. "Rex shares his toys with me, so I share my food with him. It's fair." Dr. Helen's scientific mind struggled with the concept. But resource competition should be driving conflict between species. Sarah looked up from where she was preparing Max's dinner. "There's no competition. We have plenty for everyone. Love isn't something that gets used up when you share it." The breakthrough moment came that evening during what the Williams family called cuddle time. The entire family gathered in the living room to watch television together. Max stretched across 3 laps on the couch. Rex curled up on the floor with his massive head resting on Jack's feet. Ginger claimed Grandmother Helen's shoulder as his personal throne. "This is impossible," Dr. Mark breathed, recording everything on his scanner. "Apex predators from different species, coexisting peacefully in the same territory." "Not just coexisting," Emma pointed out. "Cooperating. Watch this." She stood up and walked toward the front door. Immediately, all 3 animals became alert. Max's ears perked up, Rex rose to his feet, and even Ginger opened his eyes. "They're responding to a potential threat," Emma explained. "If someone they didn't recognize tried to enter this house, all 3 would work together to protect the family." Professor Dale's voice was full of wonder. "A multi-species defensive alliance. We call it being good dogs and cats," Robert said with a smile. "Though I suppose your way sounds more scientific." Later that night, Emma found Dr. Helen sitting on the back porch, staring up at the stars. Ginger had somehow appeared beside her and was purring softly as she absently stroked his fur. "I've studied xenobiology for 30 years, Dr. Helen said quietly. "I thought I understood predator behavior. But this..." She gestured at Ginger, who was clearly enjoying the attention from this new human. "This changes everything." Emma sat down beside them. "What changes?" "We always assumed that intelligence meant dominance. That advanced species would naturally seek to control or eliminate other predators." Dr. Helen's tentacles moved gently along Ginger's back. "But humans chose cooperation instead." Ginger began purring louder, the sound rumbling through the peaceful evening air. "Maybe," Emma said softly, "that's what real intelligence looks like." 6 months later, Emma stood at the front of the largest lecture hall on Titan Station. The room was packed with students from across the galaxy, all eager to hear about the discovery that had changed everything they thought they knew about predator behavior. The holographic display behind her showed a simple image: 5-year-old Emma fast asleep in her bed with whiskers curled up beside her, one large paw draped protectively across her small form. "This picture was taken 12 years ago," Emma began, her voice carrying clearly through the silent auditorium. "At the time, my family thought it was just a cute photo of a little girl and her pet. We had no idea we were documenting something the rest of the galaxy considered impossible." In the front row, Professor Dale nodded encouragingly. His research paper titled Cooperative Predation, the Earth Model, had already become required reading at universities across known space. Beside him, Dr. Helen took notes while a small holographic image of Ginger played on her personal tablet. Emma touched a control, and the display changed to show video footage from her recent trip home. Her nephew Tommy, barely 4 years old, was playing in the backyard with Duke, a massive pit bull that her sister had rescued from an animal shelter. The dog outweighed the child by 60 pounds but moved with careful gentleness as Tommy climbed on his back. A Kalrani student in the 3rd row made a clicking sound of distress. "How does the small human survive contact with such a large predator?" Emma smiled. "Because Duke loves him. Watch what happens when Tommy gets too close to the fence." The video showed Tommy wandering toward the yard's boundary where the neighbor's property began. Immediately, Duke moved between the child and the fence, gently but firmly guiding Tommy back toward the center of the safe area. The predator is protecting the young human. The question came from a crystalline being whose body chimed with confusion. That's his job, Emma explained. Duke was trained as a guard dog, but his real mission now is keeping Tommy safe. He takes that responsibility very seriously. She switched to another video, this one showing her sister Lisa preparing dinner while Duke lay nearby. Tommy approached the stove, reaching for something shiny, and Duke immediately stood up, placing his large body between the child and potential danger. He didn't bark or show aggression, just created a gentle but immovable barrier. The predator understands human safety protocols, Dr. Helen observed from the front row. It's actively preventing harm to a smaller pack member. Emma nodded. Dogs are incredibly intelligent when it comes to understanding their human families. Duke knows that stoves are dangerous, that roads are off-limits, and that strangers need to be watched carefully. He's not just a pet, he's a guardian. The display shifted again, showing footage that Dr. Mark had recorded during their Earth visit. Rex walked beside Jack on their way to school, his alert eyes scanning the environment for any potential threats. When they reached a street corner, Rex immediately sat down, preventing Jack from crossing until the traffic cleared. Remarkable, whispered a Centauri student. The predator has learned human traffic safety. More than that, Emma said. He's teaching it to Jack. Watch this next part. The video showed Jack starting to run ahead, but Rex quickly moved in front of him, blocking his path with gentle but firm authority. The boy immediately slowed down and took hold of Rex's collar, allowing the dog to guide him safely across the street. An Altrian student raised a tentacled arm. But why do these predators choose to serve humans? What do they gain from this arrangement? Emma's smile widened. Everything. Food, shelter, medical care, safety, and most importantly, love. But it's not really serving, it's partnership. She showed them a new video, this one featuring Max playing fetch with Robert in the backyard. The golden retriever brought the ball back each time, his tail wagging with pure joy. When Robert finally sat down, tired from throwing, Max immediately brought his favorite rope toy and dropped it hopefully at Robert's feet. Max isn't obeying commands, Emma explained. He's inviting his human to play. This is recreational activity between friends. The audience murmured among themselves in dozens of languages. The concept of recreational activity between predator species was completely foreign to most galactic civilizations. Emma touched the control again, bringing up her favorite video from the collection. It showed the entire Williams family during their evening routine, Sarah reading on the couch with Max's head in her lap, Jack doing homework on the floor with Rex lying protectively beside him, and grandmother Helen knitting in her chair while Ginger purred contentedly on her shoulder. This is what we call home, Emma said softly. Multiple species choosing to live together, not because they have to, but because they want to. Because life is better when you're not alone. A young Vorthak student spoke up, her crystalline voice ringing clearly. But humans are also predators. How do you prevent conflict between competing apex species? Emma considered the question carefully. By deciding that love is stronger than competition. My family could fight these animals for dominance, and we'd probably win. But winning isn't the point. The point is building something better together than any of us could build alone. The display showed one final image, the most recent photo from home. Emma's new niece, baby Sarah, was sleeping peacefully in her crib while Duke lay on the floor beside her, his protective gaze never wavering from the tiny human. Duke has never had puppies of his own, Emma told the rapt audience. But he's claimed baby Sarah as his responsibility. He'll spend the next 15 years of his life making sure she stays safe, just because she's part of his pack. The lecture hall fell completely silent as hundreds of alien minds tried to process this information. Finally, Professor Dale stood up. What Emma has shown us, he said, is that true strength isn't about being the biggest or the fiercest. True strength is about choosing to use your power to protect instead of destroy. Emma nodded, looking out at the sea of curious faces. When I was little, I never thought having whiskers was special. Now I understand that humans didn't conquer Earth by being better predators. We succeeded by convincing other predators to join our family instead of fighting us. She paused, then added with a smile, and honestly, I think we got the better deal.